And we are live for another installment of The Dirty Work, which is pretty much an entrepreneurial's vlog or the vlog of an entrepreneur, kind of peeling back the curtain where I'm able to talk to you kind of naturally about what entrepreneurs have to go through and what they have to do in order to find success. Unfortunately, social media kind of paints entrepreneurship in a very pleasant light where everything is fun and Lamborghinis, and that's just not reality. Um, there's a lot that goes into running your own business or businesses, and at times it could be quite lonely, frustrating, difficult, hard, and especially when you're in like the early phases and you're watching other people win, you end up thinking there's something wrong with you, right? I go through that even now after being successful. So I could only imagine what it's like for people in this day to have to kind of, starting from day one, compare themselves to me, then compare themselves to, the uber successful like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. That's kind of who I compare myself to and feel I'm falling short. So for those of you who are just getting started out, I think this is a great place to kind of just see how an entrepreneur thinks, see behind the scenes. And I'm actually going to test a new kind of content model. I'm actually revamping how we approach content in our company. And you're going to kind of see that take shape over the next few months. But I'm giving some structure to this daily work vlog. So I'll have like an introduction, just kind of however we start. That'll probably get more polished as to what this is all about. Even though this is number 54, it's always been quite random as to how we structure these things. Then I'm going to go through what's on my agenda just to give you an idea of kind of the forward thinking, what I'm working on, and the type of work that I have to do. Current events and updates. Then I open it up to questions so that you guys can kind of steer the conversation. So if you're interested in knowing anything, learning anything, getting any suggestions and tips into what I actually cover here on the channel, which is mostly living globally and ways to afford it, then I would love to answer those questions. And then I'll close out with a quote of the day and what it means to me. And the reason why I'm kind of breaking it up into these sections is because I've obviously been revamping my content strategy, and we're taking a long to short approach, meaning making more robust content that can then be subdivided into medium format, which will be between 3 and 10 minutes, and then shorts, 15 seconds to 3 minutes for reels and YouTube shorts and TikTok and blah, blah, blah. So having the distinct segments will make it a lot easier to parse out a longer conversation like this to get micro content or things that are a little more focused and maybe an individual might be interested in. So that's what we're doing there. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Ishmael. Do ISFPs and INTPs get along? I have no idea. Entrepreneurs getting dirty, bro. Entrepreneurs getting dirty, bro. I'm not sure if this is what the intent is, but for sure, I know I've done every single function in my companies, whether it's janitorial work to building desk to painting, uh, all kinds of stuff. So it's not glorified, and nobody's going to do what the owner is going to do. And if they do, then they should be a partner. So, okay. This content structure sounds like I'm back in college classroom, bro. Okay. That's, if you choose to continue watching, you can. If you don't think it's interesting, then that's fine. The college classroom isn't necessarily a bad place. I had a lot of good naps there, and I learned a lot. Do ENTPs and ISFPs get along? I don't know. I think that's going to all be relative to who those people are and how they function. So outside of this personality type, it's what are their interests, and an ENTP can I'm actually ahead of myself, but an ENTP can actually get along with anybody as long as they find common ground and a mutual interest. So if that person has something interesting going on in their life, that's where the relationship might exist, is that ENTP's interest in that particular thing and that knowledge exchange. But I'll get to the questions in just a bit. Let's just go through what we got going on here. So I use an app called Asana that was recommended to me by my assistant to help keep me on track so I don't forget what I need to do. So I literally put down my task on a task list and sort through that. So today I got to re-engage our home care consultant just to do some licensure renewals. I got to buy some new SD cards for my cameras here. I have to, I'm training some new staff on our quality assurance and performance improvement protocol for one of our agencies in New York. I have a few new nurses that join the company and they need to learn more about the QA work. So I have to put together a PowerPoint kind of explaining the logic of our QA system, and what sort of data I'm going to want them to collect and provide to me so that we could put together our QA reports. Those have to be done on a quarterly basis for licensed home care agencies. And the intent of those QA reports is to ensure that the organization is kind of reviewing their operation and improving their operation to minimize errors that can, of course, affect a patient. Setting up these cameras here. So I got some, if you didn't notice, I got some dimmable lights now. So it's not as bright in the background. That was a recommendation from my videographer. And then we're opening up a new bank account for our consulting company, Passive Workforce. All the consulting revenue that used to come in from that service of starting healthcare staffing agencies was going into ENTP Life's bank account. And we decided that we're going to separate the businesses, that the healthcare consulting will be one tranche of business, and obviously what I do on ENTP Life, which is more global living, and just general kind of side gigs that I have. Kind of that revenue goes into ENTP Life, ad rev, etc. Some Airbnb revenue goes in there as well. So I've just been separating those two things out, and obviously to separate the finances, I have to have separate bank accounts. So I just have to confirm that my private banker has set that up. If she hasn't, then I'm just going to have to pop into the branch and do it myself. I just don't want to waste that time. And then I'm going to be putting together some short ideas for my reels. We're trying to increase the amount of content that we put out so that we're covering between 3 and 5 posts a day. So in order to do that, I have to come up with ideas. Now, one of the things that I am going to do is that I get a lot of questions in my comment sections. So I've been screenshotting those questions, and I feel like I could answer those questions in 1 to 3 minutes or so. And that will always kind of keep me fresh with idea rather than have to kind of dream them up out of my mind. You guys would ask questions and I would be able to answer those questions in the form of a short. And chances are, if you have that question, other people have that question, and we'll find that content helpful. For those of you who are like under a rock, Florida's been getting pounded by hurricanes. And people have been asking, how am I doing? Because right now, like when I'm in this set here, this is Florida. So people have been asking, how am I doing? Am I safe, etc. Fortunately for me, the Hurricane Ian hit the west coast of Florida and has done some damage. There was some blackouts last night in Fort Lauderdale, but the lights came back on pretty quickly. But from what I could hear, Western Florida got rocked. And that's unfortunate. So, for the people who are out there kind of suffering through this tough time, it sucks. But then again, it's Florida. So you have to expect the occasional hurricane and the devastation that comes along with that. However, there's something that I do want to talk about, and that is the silver lining in all this for us real estate vultures out there. I did pretty well with buying some properties in New York after Hurricane Sandy, properties that were damaged by that. And I did that kind of in reaction to what happened post Hurricane Katrina and not taking advantage of the devastation there. So when Hurricane Sandy hit New York and kind of beat up the southern shore of Long Island, there were a lot of the coastal towns like Seaford, Freeport, Long Beach, etc., that properties were just, you know, done. People either foreclosed on those properties because they didn't have proper insurance, or the banks paid them out. Not the banks, the insurance companies paid them out, and from that payout, they were able to uh, just kind of move on and start over instead of repairing the house. So they just kind of walked away from the houses. Sometimes the insurance company is left holding the house and then has to kind of repurpose it. So there was a lot of opportunity, and these people were afraid of these hurricane damaged homes because more often than not, they have to be lifted or they're in pretty bad shape. But those properties are worth quite a bit today. Looking back, it's been quite a nice run. Some of them are up 300-400% from the point that I bought them. So I say that to say this: if you've been following me and what I do as far as flipping houses and owning real estate, I absolutely am going to be looking to the west coast of Florida, Tampa, Fort Myers, Sarasota, the places that were hit pretty hard, looking for opportunities to pick up more property. It's not going to be immediate. There's going to be some sort of delay between people getting their insurance checks, people walking away from their homes, properties being condemned. Probably we're talking about 6 to 12 month lag time. And I'm going to be looking into those properties and seeing if I can pick up anything interesting, like properties either near airports. That would make sense for me as a pilot to kind of fly in and have an excuse to go there. And properties obviously closer to the beach and closer to downtown that can either be rented out as Airbnbs or multifamily properties, duplexes, triplexes, quads in those areas that, again, could serve as vacation rentals. And in some cases, if it makes sense, some of those smaller, like 10 to 12 unit motels, again, in the beach towns, those offer some pretty interesting opportunities. So I'll be looking at that. And, if all goes as planned, I'll be covering what I do with those properties. So that's pretty much it, man. You have to look at disasters as being an opportunity. A lot of people are going to get discouraged by their home getting flooded out, think about moving inland, just giving it all up. It's a second property and they're just tired of the floods or whatever the case may be. Again, that's an opportunity for somebody else. And you have to kind of start looking, if you're someone who's entrepreneurial, if you're someone who's interested in investing in real estate, some of the best opportunities are going to come out of devastation. Market crashes, bankruptcies, foreclosures, fires, things like that. One man's trash is another man's treasure. That proverb is for real when it comes to real estate investing. Moving on to the next segment, we're going to kind of just go through some of the questions that are coming in. And I really appreciate the questions. It kind of makes me feel like I'm not just talking to myself. So let's see what we have here. Okay. Christian Macho. What's your opinion on remote work in your companies? Oh, okay. I don't like it. I really don't like remote work. I like people to be in the office. I like people to be around each other. I want to know how productive my employees are. And there's very few people, in my opinion, that work well remotely. More often than not, they're kind of lounging around, watching TV, eating snacks more frequently than they should, distracted with kids, distracted with housework. So I feel like it reduces productivity on most people. So I just don't think it's a good idea. I don't like it. As soon as we were kind of getting people back into the office, something that I absolutely was pushing for. In my Columbia office, there were quite a few people who were interested in remote work, like that were applying for jobs, and it's 100% non-starter for me. Any new employee is expected to report to the office and work in the office. I don't care if their job can technically be done remotely. Computer programming, graphic design, video editing, I don't care. I'd rather see you in the office working. Um, and the main reason for wanting my employees to be in the office is there's so much to learn just by physically being there. You get to hear and see what your colleagues are working on, how they're approaching their calls, how they're managing situations, how they organize themselves. There's opportunities to collaborate, share ideas. To me, it's just much better to be in a social environment where you're kind of hearing what's going on. You're up to speed with changes in the company. It's a lot easier to kind of get corrections and feedback than having to schedule a meeting online. I really don't like remote work. And for the companies that are pushing for people to come back to the office, I'm 100% for it. For health, Jackson, do INFPs and ENTPs get along? I think so. I've had a few INFP employees, and they're cool. Like I had one employee, her name was Mariam. I certainly knew she was an INFP. I loved working with her. She was always polite, thoughtful, sweet person, and I appreciate her for that. But I think personalities can get along with whoever. It's just a matter of who the people are. Carl, can the healthcare business that you have for sale be run by an absentee owner? Um, the healthcare company that I have for sale be run by an absentee owner. It depends on which one we're talking about. But I think I think you need a certain. You're going to have to evaluate. If we're talking about my companies, um, I think for the most part they can be run by an absentee owner. The kind of lead management knows their job. They know what to do. The day to day, you don't have to necessarily be involved in. However, if you're below a certain size, an owner operator is kind of crucial, mainly because that person is usually on top of the processes and know the processes in detail. They are also kind of critical to business development. So I think one of the best ways that you can look at whether or not a company requires a present ownership is looking at what is the day-to-day function and role of that owner, and then looking at what is the free cash flow. So if the free cash flow after servicing your debt is above 800,000, I would say that puts you in a position where you could at least hire some solid management to fill the gaps that the owner was taking on. So if the owner was working like most owners, 12-hour, 16-hour days, and they're pretty capable, if you had to break that down into two positions that were also highly capable, you might be paying anywhere from 100,000 to, I don't know, $180,000 a year for those roles that the owner might have taken on to get quality people. And with that, you'd still have decent cash flow to make it worth owning that business. So, it's a combination of what is the owner doing and in the day to day, and also what is the free cash flow, so that if you were taking over a company and the owner was being replaced, that you could afford the quality talent that would be needed to allow you to be an absentee owner. I'm not like a super expert on the personality types and matching. I have no idea. Okay, that's another question. Okay, Nikos, what's going on, man? How are you? We did an interview together for his LinkedIn where we kind of, as ENTPs, talked for well over an hour about all sorts of topics. So, Nico, thank you for coming by. Can we find a buyer? I want to translate that into rental apartments or houses to have monthly income. Can we find a buyer? I want to translate that into. I'm not clear on what your question is. Just kind of rephrase this question so I can answer that. Big Mike, I was one of the early Tesla investors. I'm now retired and traveling the world. Guys, invest, invest. It changed my life. Yeah, awesome. When did you get in on Tesla? And what was your price? 3 hours. It was a 3 hour conversation. Oh crap! 3 hours. Sick people, man. Chatted it up for 3 hours. That's pretty funny. All right. Any other questions, Nico? If you can, just rephrase your question so that I can answer this, and then I'll close out. What is going on? All right, cool. So, JM. Okay, here's another question. For those trying to live globally, is it safer to get a remote 9 to 5 as opposed to investing in a foreign country and buying a business from there, bro? Um, yeah, I would say the safer play would be to get a remote 9 to 5, and the reason why that's the safer play is because you're going to still be earning your income in a way that you're comfortable, right? Because moving into a new country and living globally, there's going to be some challenges with getting your documentation so you could be legal, figuring out how to invest, how to get financing, starting and saving enough money to do so. So there's some challenges I would say people may face, like especially if they're earlier on in their kind of financial journey to just pick up and move somewhere. That I would say if you're able to port your job to that new country, you're in much better shape. And there's a lot of countries now offering up a digital nomad visa so that you don't have to really worry about kind of how long you're staying. Like most places have like a 90-day stay. So with these digital nomad visas, which I'll be covering here on the channel, they're allowing you to work remotely, keep your job, but live there, and that offers incredible benefits. So let's just say you're making your average earner in the United States, you're making around 50 or $60,000, and you're able to keep your job and work remotely because you have one of those employers that will allow that. That's not me, but you're allowed to work remotely. And you pick up and you go to Colombia, right? Medellin, Colombia is a place I cover a lot, so I'm familiar with the cost there. You go to Colombia and you're now living on $1,500 a month, and you're living good. You're able to save probably another 1,500 after taxes, or 1,800, whatever that is, and that's going to put you in a position to accelerate your savings. So you get to 25,000 in a year, and then you're able to decide on what sort of investment you want to make. And it's probably better to make investments in the home country that because you're going to know how to maneuver there. That's what I like to do, at least. So you could buy property, you could make other investments with those savings, and kind of wean yourself off the 9 to 5 if that's what you want to do. That would be my general advice. Second to that would be to set up businesses in your home country that spin off cash for you, that will allow you to move on, or develop a skill that you're going to be able to earn anywhere you go, like trading stocks, or video editing, or computer programming, things that you don't necessarily need to be fixed sales. For example, just being a dynamic on the phone salesperson. That's probably a job that you could do anywhere in the world. And if you're able to take advantage of the arbitrage in currency, you can do really well just by taking your job with you. So that's the answer. Yeah, I could get like I have some services. I think there's one service that I have that's right now doing 500 megabits per second. I think you could count on about 100 to 150 down as pretty good. There's other providers that are just crappy that might try to give you 15 megabits per second. Sorry. Um, but I find the internet to be suitable. I'm having some issues in my office, and I just think it's the configuration or some of the equipment that I have because I have three providers just to ensure 100% uptime. But my home internet is phenomenal. So I would say yes, you could find good internet that will allow you to conduct, these sort of video calls, voice over IP if needed. I don't know what your work is, but I think good enough to do most administrative work. Look above. What is Nico saying? I don't also. Yeah, I really don't see. This is the question I have. I don't see anything above there. Um, I want to translate that into rental apartments. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I'm really confused. Um, okay, here's somebody else who's looking to move globally. Okay, I'm trying it out remote for the first time in Thailand. When are you going to Thailand? How soon? What part? Have you already like I'm really curious as to what you're doing. And I think that might be another cool segment. Oh, this freaking rickety table. I think that might be another cool segment to have. Zoom in. Yeah, I think that might be another cool segment to have where we have people who are like getting ready to relocate and kind of doing like the pre move sort of setup and just talking through the idea, making sure that it's sound. Um, or then also bringing on people who have made the move and what it's been like. Has it met or exceeded their expectations, or what sort of hardships that they have? And we're going to be doing a podcast totally dedicated to that. But it would still be cool to talk to you guys and see how things kind of develop. Let's see this last one. I'm a programmer. Don't they also have share spaces you can rent to work from? Uh, yeah. So there's, for example, I don't know what city you're going to, but you have plenty of co-working spaces. WeWork, Regis are worldwide. I've seen them in every major city in the world that I've been to. Regis has over 2,000 co-working centers. Um, and if you're like, I'm that type of person, I don't really like working from home. So if you're the type of person that needs to be in an office environment to lock in and work, then you could get a fairly inexpensive co-working membership and kind of plop down and get busy. And that's going to raise your overall cost per month, but it's going to allow you to do what you need to do. And as a programmer, um, you're able to work, anywhere in the world and get it done. And there seems to be more flexibility with remote work and programmers because it's pretty insulated work. But I personally like to have them around still anyway, because again, they get to see. This is just a side note, but if you're a programmer and you're working on the floor where the administrative staff is working and using the product, for example, our product On Time, our staff uses On Time to run our healthcare businesses. And if you're there with the people, with the users, and you're seeing what their hardships are and you're seeing what their workflow is, it's going to help you as a programmer rather than kind of building off of a technical description, but really building off of the feedback and the use cases. It's going to actually help you plan better and program better solutions for that particular client type. So again, I really don't like remote work because there's so many There's more benefits, in my opinion, to the workers being on site that I don't know. I don't feel like the trade off is worth it. All right, man. Cool. So just to close out here, I want to close out with the quote of the day and what it means to me. This quote comes from Jay-Z, and it states, "I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of not trying." And that's a quote that I love because death is something that's going to be promised to all of us, right? It's just a matter of when. And I think for me, particularly, my biggest fear in life is to get to a point where I'm on a deathbed, right? And I'm kind of dying gradually rather than, you know, instantaneously, and thinking, what could I have done in my life that I didn't get to do? And that feeling of regret at the same time as I'm approaching returning to the dust, that frightens me more than anything. And that's why I have this sign over my shoulder, and my motto for this channel is to live your dreams, is because you have this crack at this form of life, right? You in the human form as you are today, not going to get into reincarnation and all that, but you have this one life, and you should be doing exactly what you want to do with it, loving the way that you want to love, seeing and experiencing it the way that you want to. And a lot of us end up not doing it that way because we're trying to satisfy other people rather than satisfying the one that matters the most. Leaving October 24th through October 26th, or and arrive. Oh yeah, that, yeah, of course. Leaving October 24th and October, learning coding as I work at a call center. Gotcha. Cool, man. Well, I wish you all the best in that journey. I hope they approved your move, and it's going to be all be good. The time difference may benefit you, right? Like that's one of the things I liked about living in Europe. Like I was there for the summer, right? And what I loved about the schedule was that I had my mornings free. I could work out in the morning, I could spend time with my family, I could film, I could do all kinds of stuff in the morning. And then my work day, which is 9 to 5 here, started at 3 p.m. And I went from 3 to 11 focused on work without, being able to eat breakfast in peace, being able to eat lunch in peace, play with my kids, and then move into work towards the end of the day. Thailand is quite a time difference, but you might be able to take advantage of other things because of that time zone arbitrage. But yeah, anyway, that closes it out for today. Thank you for joining me here on another edition of The Dirty Work. Please, anybody who's rewatching this and not live, let me know in the comment section below if there's anything that you feel I should address or change, or things I can improve on. I'm always looking to improve. And again, the quote of the day is, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of not trying. So make sure you go out there and do everything that you want to do with your life. Think about how far Jay-Z has come in his own life, who's the writer of this quote, and really allow yourself to be the best version of you as possible so that you don't end up on your deathbed regretting the life that you lived. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.